in a small Tennessee town, one that most maps barely even bother to name. There's a faded highway that cuts right through it. It passes old brick shops, a single diner with a flickering neon sign, and a quiet neighborhood where it seems like everyone knows everything about everyone else. And that's where Emma lived. She was a 26-year-old woman who worked the morning shift at Harper's Cafe. She wasn't famous, she wasn't rich, and she didn't have some incredible talent that the world was just waiting to discover. But what she did have was something incredibly rare. A stubborn, unshakable kindness that had somehow survived everything life had thrown at her. Every single morning at 5:30, before the sun even started to warm the pavement, Emma would unlock the cafe, turn on the lights, and begin the ritual she had memorized for years. The coffee grinders would start humming like small engines. You'd hear the soft clinking of plates. And then, that first incredible smell of pancakes hitting the griddle. Emma loved the quiet, the feeling that for a small, precious moment, she was the only person awake in the entire world. It was her calm before the storm. But behind her warm smile, there was a worry she tried so hard to hide. Her mother's medical bills had just doubled, again. Her brother's truck had broken down, and he needed it for work. The rent wasn't getting any cheaper. And Emma never, ever bought anything just for herself. People would sometimes notice the deep tiredness in her eyes, but they'd just think, oh, she's young, she's strong, she'll be fine. And that's the tricky thing about strong people, isn't it? Everyone just assumes they don't need any help. One cold November morning, a man named Jonathan Rivers walked into the cafe. He was tall, dressed in an elegant suit, but his expression was tired. He was the kind of man who looked like he lived his life on airplanes and in boardrooms. He sat down quietly in a corner booth, ordered a black coffee, and just stared out the window at nothing in particular. Jonathan had only come to town to sign some paperwork for a property his company was selling. He didn't expect to stay for more than a day. He definitely didn't expect that the person who would change something deep inside him would be the waitress bringing him his coffee. Emma smiled at him the way she did with everyone, genuine, warm, without trying to impress him in any way. And for the first time in a long time, Jonathan felt something unusual, a sense of calm. Over the next week, unexpected paperwork delays forced him to stay longer in town. And every single morning, he returned to Harper's Cafe. And every morning, he and Emma talked. They weren't deep, life-altering conversations. Just those small, simple things that somehow reveal who a person really is. They talked about the weather, about books. She told him how much she loved sunrises. He told her how much he hated hotel breakfasts. She mentioned how she wanted to travel one day, but had never had the chance. One morning, he came in early enough to see Emma carrying heavy boxes of supplies inside from the delivery truck. She must have thought no one was watching. She stopped for a moment, rubbed the small of her back, and whispered to herself, "Keep going, Emma." She was like her own coach, trying to keep herself from breaking. That single moment hit Jonathan harder than any business meeting ever had. Later that day, he quietly asked the cafe owner, a man named old Mr. Henderson, "Does she ever get a day off? She looks completely exhausted." Mr. Henderson sighed, wiping down the counter with a rag. "Emma works 2 jobs, he said. "Her mom's in the hospital. She's a tough girl, but she's carrying way too much all by herself." Jonathan didn't sleep that night. He just lay in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling. The next morning, when Emma arrived for her shift, she found an envelope taped to the cafe door. There was no name on it. She hesitantly opened it. Inside was a check. Enough money to cover her mother's medical bills for the rest of the year. And beneath it, a small, simple note written in neat handwriting. "Strong people deserve help too. A friend." Emma froze right there on the sidewalk. Her hands started to shake. The tears she had been holding back for months, maybe even years, finally found their way out. She looked up and down the empty street, as if the mysterious friend might still be standing there, watching. When Jonathan came in for his coffee later that morning, she didn't suspect him at all. He didn't say a word about it. He simply ordered his coffee, as usual, and watched as she smiled for the first time without the heavy weight of the world on her shoulders. A week later, all the paperwork was finally done. Jonathan was ready to leave town. When he got to the airport, He stood there for a long moment, hesitating. Then he turned around, got back in his rental car, and drove straight back to the cafe. He found Emma wiping down tables after the morning rush. He didn't confess. He didn't ask for anything. He only said one thing to her: "You make this town brighter." Emma didn't know why her eyes filled with tears again. Something about the way he said it, so gentle, so sincere. It felt like someone had finally, truly seen her. Not just the waitress, not just the strong girl, but Emma. Jonathan left town that afternoon, but something had changed in Emma. She started saving a little money for a small trip, something she had always dreamed of, but never allowed herself to even imagine before. She began taking one afternoon off each week, just for herself. She even painted her tiny apartment a bright, cheerful yellow. It had always been her favorite color, but it was a small joy she had never indulged in. As for Jonathan, he returned to his big city life. But with one difference. He sent one letter every single month, never from the same place. The letters were always short, always encouraging. And Emma kept them all, safe in a shoebox under her bed. Little paper reminders that kindness doesn't just disappear, even when the people who give it do. Years later, the folks in that small town still talk about the winter when the waitress, who carried everyone else's burdens, finally received a miracle of her own. It wasn't the kind of miracle you read about in newspapers, but the quiet kind, the kind that travels from one heart to another and changes a life forever without ever asking for anything in return. Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that their strength is seen. See you next time.